All right, everybody, what's going on? And welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk. This is the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. Of course, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC, C. Wells, coming at you. And we're going to continue this little series that I started the other day, man. We're going to, after every day that games have been played from now to the end of the season, we're going to come back probably the day after or so. We're going to come back and we're going to take a look at the standings. There are only 5 conference games left in the regular season before we start the SWAC tournament. So every game is very important. Tournament starts on March 13th in Birmingham. So there's not a lot of time left. The races are heating up. Uh, there's no real crazy separation anywhere yet. So that's why I want to do this after every day. We're going to talk some Legacy Bowl tomorrow. So don't worry about that. If you're trying to get a little football in, we'll get that tomorrow. Sunday, after Saturday's games, we'll go down the conference race, and Tuesday after next Monday's games, we'll do the same, and we're gonna do that until it ends, because this is gonna be crazy. I think this is gonna come down to the final day. I also have a new article up on BustinBrackets.com about Tijani Dumase, point guard from Southern. He's from Paris, France. So if you want to check that out, the link will be in the description, or you could find it on my socials. Facebook is Swag Talk, Instagram Swag Talk, Twitter Swag Talk 76. Or you can just go to bustinbrackets.com and get it there. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment your thoughts on this race and who you think gonna come out on top, who gonna make the tournament, who gonna miss the tournament, and anything in between. So let's go ahead and in the meantime, in between time, let's go ahead and get this thing started. We'll start at the bottom, like I like to do. I like to start at the bottom and work my way up. We're also going to be using teamrankings.com. They have their projections for the conference tournament, who's going to finish where, what seed. I'm not going to round up or down. I'm just going to use the number itself. There's percentages for how far teams are advanced in the tournament. And then there's the projected conference records at the end of the season. So I'm going to use all of that for each team. And we're going to start with the team who is officially out, and that's Valley. Valley, they have not won a game yet, so they are sitting at 0-13 in conference with only 5 games left. At some point, I hope and pray they do win a game. I don't want them to finish winless, so hopefully they can win a game, but they are out. There's no way they can get in, even if they were to win out. So they are out. So that leaves us with 11 teams and 8 spots. FAMU, I feel like is hanging on by a thread. I'm basically gonna consider them out because they would need a lot of stuff to happen in front of them, and they would need to win the rest of their games. Which when you've only won 2, winning 5 in a row is going to be a tough stretch. Not saying that it's impossible, but I don't see it happening. And like I said, they would need a lot of teams in front of them to lose multiple games, and really. There's really when you look at it, they are out because there's 5 games left, and they're the eighth place team has 6 losses. So they would, if they were to win out, they would tie with them if nobody else, if everybody else is having to lose. So the Rattlers are out. I'm not gonna really calculate that anymore. They're pretty much out. That brings us to number 10, and that's Prairie View. So now we have 10 teams for 8 spots. The battle for the last spot is going to be intense. Prairie View is our 10th team right now in the standings. They're 5-8. This weekend they go to Valley and Pine Bluff. They close out with Alcorn and Jackson at home, and then they go to Texas Southern. So they have a pretty tough schedule. Everybody that's left but Valley is ahead of them in the standings. So you could make some headway if you were to win these games, but at 5-8 and kind of not playing the best ball, they may be out. They may be on the outside looking in. This is a very guard-heavy team. They don't really have a lot of big men. Brian Miles is the big man for them pretty much. He's a double-double machine. 3 double-doubles in his last 4 games. So, they have some talent. Charles Smith, Charles Lane, those guys can get it done, but I'm not sure if they can get past this final gauntlet of the season. So they are 1-0 against Jackson and Pine Bluff, respectively. So that's that's something that they can have in their back pocket for a little while longer. And they lost to Texas Southern. They beat Valley, and they lost to Alcorn. So you can see where they kind of stack up. But right now, it's going to take a little work for them to get in. Right now, they are projected. Their highest projected seed in the tournament is a 7 seed. They have an 8% chance of making the semis, a 3% chance of making the championship, and a 1.4% chance of winning it all. They are projected to finish with a conference record of 7-11. So they will most likely finish out. Our nine spot right now, and this is kind of a jumbled mess. Right now, I think this is all messed up. Right now we have Bama A&M kind of all in the mix right now, along with Bethune-Cookman. So there's a really jumbled mess right here. So let me rearrange my numbers here. All right, so right now we have at the 9 spot we have Pine Bluff. They are in a tie with Bethune-Cookman, Alabama State, and Pine Bluff is at 6 and 7, so they are in the 9 spot all by themselves. So they sit one game out of the tournament at this point. They play Prairie View and Texas Southern at home, and Valley at home. Then they finish out on the road at Alcorn and at Jackson State. So they have a pretty formidable finish to their season as well. And this is a team who offensively can put the ball in the basket. Rashard Williams had basically scored like 55 points off the bench in the last 2 games. So that's a guy that can get heated up. Milton, French, all those guys can score the ball. So they can be dangerous offensively. They just have not had the consistency all year. I don't know if they'll be able to get that, but they're sitting in a spot where they don't have a lot of tiebreakers. The only tiebreaker they have remaining is Texas Southern, and they're not going to catch them. So that's not really important. The teams that are in front of them by like a game or 2, they have not beat any of those teams. So they are kind of in a bad spot when you look at tiebreakers. You got to kind of figure that they will. I think they're gonna win some games. They're projected to finish at 8 and 10 in conference play. So kind of on the outside looking in, they also are projected for a high seed of 7 going into the tournament. They have a 15% chance of making the semis, a 5% chance of making the finals, and a 2% chance of winning the tournament. So right now, I still like Pine Bluff as an offensive team. I just don't like them on the other end of the court. And they can fill it up. They can fill it up, but then they can have nights where their shots don't fall, and they shoot a lot of threes. In a one and done situation, if your shot's not falling and you shoot a lot of threes, you can go home early and in a bad way. So right now, Pine Bluff is, they're battling for that 9 spot. They're only a game out of the 8 spots, so they are still in it. They still have a good opportunity to make it, but it's gonna take some work, and they have to win the games in front of them. Like I say, 6, 7, and 8 are Bethune-Cookman, Bama State, and Alabama A&M. You can jumble those up right now any way you want. League tiebreakers and all that solve this, but for the sake of this, we're just gonna keep it. We'll just keep it going with Bama State at the 6 spot, 7 Bethune-Cookman, and 8 Alabama A&M. Right now, the Bulldogs are projected to finish with a 9 and 9 record, so basically 500. And I think 500 is probably going to be the lowest to get in the tournament. Maybe 8 and 10, but right now I think everybody make the tournament be 500 or better. So right now they're projected to finish 9 and 9 and make the tournament. they are projected as a 6 seed for their high projection. So that's some confidence in them being able to win some of those last games and boost themselves up in the rankings. They close out their season at Bethune-Cookman, which is a team that tied with at FAMU. They get Bama State at home. They get Grambling and Southern at home. So they have two games in a row on the road, 3 in a row at home. They play everybody that they're tied with. Basically that's the one good thing about 6, 7, and 8. They all play each other at the end of the season. So there's gonna be some movement in this match in this mess right here. Bulldogs, they have a really good win over Grambling, and they've already beaten Bethune-Cookman. So that helps them. They lost to Bama State the first time they played them, so they have to find a way to make some things happen in that aspect. But they are sitting in a pretty decent spot in terms of who they beat and and who they've lost to, and they've played some pretty up and down ball. I mean, they lost Dallin Smith, their leading scorer, but Maury Peak and Cameron Tucker and those guys have stepped up. Lorenzo Downey, all those guys have stepped up, and they've won some big games. The games that they haven't won, they've been ugly in the sense of not a pretty game. They were in those games, but they're not aesthetically pleasing to watch, and that's fine. When you're in a tournament, you want to get through it however you want, and if you can muck up a game and throw a team off their rhythm and win, 53-50 in a tournament game in advance, then you're good. So the Bulldogs, like I said, they're projected as a 6 seed. They have a 21% chance of making the semis, 7% chance of making the finals, and a 2% chance of winning it all. That takes us to the next team in our list, and that is Bethune-Cookman. They're also 7-6. They're projected to finish 9-9. All 3 of these teams are basically projected to finish 9-9. The Wildcats, they close out their season hosting Bama State and Alabama A&M. They go to Southern and Grambling, and then they go to FAMU. So they have 2 games at home and close out with 3 in a row on the road. They have a tough road trip in there with Southern and Grambling. Those 2 teams are scrapping it out for the top spot. They did beat Southern, so that's something that they can kind of put a feather in their cap. They beat FAMU already, and they beat Alabama State. They lost to Alabama A&M. So they are kind of still sitting in a pretty decent spot. I like Bethune-Cookman as a team. I think these rankings don't really like them that much. They're picked as a 6 seed with a 29% chance of making the semis, a 12% chance of making the finals, and a 5% chance of winning it all. I like Jacoby Hetty. I like Zion Harmon and Reggie Ward. All those guys can get out there and they can scrap. And they can shoot, they can drive, they defend pretty well. They play a pretty solid game of basketball when they're on. When they're off, they don't play as well, which makes sense. But they right now are the team I would probably pick to be the 6th seed in this mix. I think Bama A&M, with them closing out with what they have at the end of the season, it may throw them off. Same thing with Bama A&M. Looking at the Hornets right now, like I said, they are in the 6th spot in terms of the standings on this site. They close out at FAMU, at Bethune-Cookman, at Alabama A&M, home against Southern and Grambling. So they have 3 road games and then 2 home games. They have beaten Alabama A&M. They've lost to Bethune-Cookman, and they've basically lost to Southern and Grambling, and they beat FAMU. So they kind of have a mix in there. This team was in the top half of the conference only a couple of weeks ago. They've picked up some losses. One thing that concerns me about this team, and I don't think it's a game thing, but the fact that it happened, that makes me nervous that they can get sucked into that. They shot 42 threes against Pine Bluff on Monday, and on Saturday. They shot 42 threes and only made like 7. So I feel like that's a team that can easily get sucked into a shooting contest. And again, in a tournament situation, you don't want to you want to value your possessions. You don't want to jack up bad shots. You want to get the best offensive rhythm that you could get. So if you can be lulled into a game like that at home of all places, then it could easily happen in a tournament. But the Hornets right now, they're picked to be a 6th seed as their highest finish. They have a 34% chance of winning the first round and making the semis, 15% chance of making the championship, and a 6% chance of winning it all. They have some guys. Okong is a big body inside. He had a double-double on Monday. Madlock and Hines, Isaiah Range, all those guys, they can really fill a basket up. They can get to the bucket. I just did that game, even if it's just a one-time thing, that kind of just doesn't sit right with me. So it makes me feel like you can be kind of sucked into that kind of battle in a game if you're playing against a team with a hot hand. You don't want to match shots like that and find yourself, behind. They are projected to finish at 9-9 as well. Almost they're at 9.5 and 8.5 wins and losses. So if you wanted to round up, you could. But they're basically like a 9-9 team as far as the projections go. We have another tie after that. This tie is for 3rd, 4th, and 5th place. And this one, these teams still have an outside shot at the championship. With the 2 teams in front of them only being 2 games ahead, and those 2 teams, the 2 top teams, have to play each other. There's an opportunity for somebody to make a move. Again, the one thing I love about the schedule this season is everybody who is battling that another team, they play that team. There's nobody in this mix that doesn't play one of the teams that they need to beat to pass up. So that helps a lot. That's one of the benefits of basically a round robin kind of season. You do have the games where you only play a team once, but you play so many teams twice that you have an opportunity to get them back later in the season. And with the schedule stacked up the way it is, it kind of lends itself to that. So with Alcorn, they have them right now at number 5. I can see them finishing even at 2, or if something was to happen at 1. All of these teams, I think, can finish as high as 2 or even 1 if the 2 teams in front of them lost some games. But right now, Alcorn, they close out with Jackson State at home. They go to Prairie View and Texas Southern, followed by closing out at home against Valley and Pine Bluff. Not a super challenging finish. The 2 games that stand out are Jackson State and Texas Southern, and those are the 2 teams they're battling. They lost to JSU first time. They lost to Texas Southern the first time, so they haven't beaten either of the teams that they're tied with. So that kind of bumps them back. They are on a 4-game winning streak. They lost a couple games in a row. Now they back on track. That game against Jackson State is huge on Saturday. That's gonna really maneuver these teams. I think all of these teams are gonna finish kind of where they're at. Alcorn, their projected highest seed is a 4, so I think they can get there. They have a 44% chance of winning the first round, a 19% chance of winning making the championship, and an 8% chance of winning it all. I wouldn't count them out. I still think that they have size inside with Kendall. They have Byron Joshua, who's a great guard. Gambrell, who is a very streaky shooter, but if he gets hot, he can shoot from Steph Curry range. You just had to worry about him cooling off. The Kedron Thorne had a big game the other day. They have a lot of guys that can play, and Coach Bussey obviously is a guy who can win. I wouldn't count them out, especially in a tournament setting. They're at the point now where I think they just know as long as they get in, they can make some noise. So I would look at them with their odds being even higher in my personal respect, for whatever that's worth. They're projected to finish 11-7 in conference, so really solidly in the mix. No projection of them not making it. but they have some big games. If they can beat JSU, but they can beat Texas Southern, they can finish in as high as 3, barring anything crazy happening in front of them. Texas Southern is 8-5 as well. They close out at Valley, at Pine Bluff, and then they close out with 3 in a row at home. Jackson State, Alcorn, and Prairie View. Again, they play the 2 teams that are in front of them in the same weekend. So there's going to be a lot of movement in that second to last weekend of the season. That's the weekend I think you're going to see a lot of separation take place. Right now, they are 1-1 against Southern and Grambling, so they do have that going for them. I think they hold a point differential against I want to say they hold a point differential against both teams, and that's very important in a tie. You know, if you're in like a multiple team tie, that's very important. Or in in a tie, you go to point differential at some point. That's very vital. They are 1-0 against Alcorn, and they're 0-1 against Jackson State, so they kind of have a mixed bag. Again, like Alcorn, Texas Southern's a team that I trust. Coach Jones, I trust that team to do whatever they need to do and get in the tournament. March is a different beast. I always say this is a team built for March, so I think that they still have that opportunity to be dangerous when they get in. Their projected finish is 12-6, solidly third. Their high seed right now is a 3, so they have they looked at as being a solid 3 seed. They are actually the team with the second highest percentage to win the tournament at 18.6. They have a 34% chance of winning and making it to the finals, and a 60% chance of making the semis, winning the first round. So the metrics love TSU, and it shows that right there. And I love the Tigers too. So I think that they are going to be dangerous. Henry and Cisse, Stroud, all these guys can get buckets for you. TSU has size. They're not always the best shooting team, but they can make up for it with just their style of play. And usually they're a pretty disciplined team. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They can do whatever they need to do. And they won low-scoring games. They lost a couple low-scoring games. They can get up and down the court to a degree. But PJ Henry, if you remember him from the tournament last year, he can get hot and go for 30 at any minute. So a guy like that can really, really hurt you as an opponent. Although he does have those games where he doesn't really score as much. So you gotta, if you're an opponent, you're rolling the dice with PJ Henry, you're gonna get. If you get the hot one, then you're probably done. So that's why I do think TSU is a major factor in this race and a major factor in the tournament, winning it all. A team that I think has the talent, but they've been snake bit and just had some bad luck with injuries, and that's Jackson State. This is a very talented team. They have size, they can shoot. Ken Evans is a guy who can really get it done. Jordan O'Neal is a guy who's big inside. He had a double-double this weekend. I think 22 and 13 or something like that. So, they can play inside and out. And they are, they can run the floor with the best of them and bang bodies. Zeke Cook can get in there and mix it up. So they can do whatever needs to be done. And I think this is a very dangerous team in the tournament. They had a slump in the middle of the season and lost 4 in a row, but they won 4 in a row now. So they're kind of getting back to where they need to be at the right time. I really wouldn't want to play this team early. If I had to play them, I would rather play them later in the tournament. A first round opponent like Jackson State is definitely going to be tough. They're projected as a 4 seed. They have a 57% chance of winning the first round, a 30% chance of making the championship, and a 15% chance of winning it all. So they have the third highest odds of winning it all as a team projected as a 4 seed. So again, a lot of love to them from this site. They're projected to finish 11-7 in conference, so solidly in the tournament. They're not going anywhere in terms of down. They're only really going to go up unless they hit another lull, and that can go for any of these teams. But those are 3, 4, 5 teams, and now we have 1 and 2 teams, and I feel different about each team. we'll start with Southern. Southern was number one by themselves. They lost yesterday to Texas Southern. They drop into a tie with Grambling. Grambling beat them, so they lose that tiebreaker. So by benefit of that, they're second place. Southern's a very good. They're a good team. I don't know if they are a great team or if they can get to be a great team. I love Brandon Davis. I think he's a guy who can shoot lights out. Doesn't really take as many shots as I would like for a guy that can hit from deep and get inside and mix it up at 6'1". I love him. I love Derek Tezano. I think he's a guy who can get inside and bang bodies. He got a nice little mid-range jump shot, and he can shoot threes as well. Doesn't really shoot often. Drayshawn Allen off the bench is a guy with like the highest jump shot I've ever seen. He jumps like 3 feet in the air on his jump shot, but he can knock it down. There's so much talent. Dumase, a point guard, can distribute the ball. And Coach Johnson has done a good job of making this team be a defensive team. You know, they've basically held everybody they played below their SWAC scoring average in almost every game, but maybe 2 or 3. So they play really good defense. They're streaky on threes. That kind of hurts. And they don't really have a lot of size inside, and that hurts. That's the difference between them and Grambling. Southern has a couple tall bodies. They don't really have a lot of big bodies that can bang, and then they can get worked on the boards. If you look at last night's game, they only had 18 rebounds. So the odds of them getting out rebounded in a game is pretty high. And in a tournament setting, again, when you need as many possessions as you can get, you need to be able to hit the boards and be successful. Now they've had some solid rebounding games, but not enough to really make a big difference. But I think for a team that had so many guys coming in new and a new coach, I think they've been in a good spot. They're higher than they were projected coming into the season. So anything at this point is a success for them. This site loves Southern right now. They have a 71% chance of making the second round. They have a 44% chance of making the championship and a 27% chance of winning it all. That's down slightly from the other day. That loss didn't really change their odds as much. They're projected to finish 14-4. So they feel like this teamrankings.com feels like four losses is going to win the SWAC. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I still think that the team I'm going to talk about in a minute is the team I think is the front runner. But like I said, I think Southern has the ability. They still are kind of getting by. They're playing without the leading scorer, so they have to kind of manufacture points. And some games they do well with that, some games they don't. So it's just all in how it falls. But the number one team right now is the team that I think is going to win it all and make the tournament for the first time, and that's Grambling. The Tigers are 10-3 as well. They close out at Southern. They have FAMU and Bethune-Cookman at home. They close out in Alabama. Same thing with Southern. Southern gets Grambling at home. They get Bethune-Cookman and FAMU at home, and then they go to Alabama for 2 games. So basically the same thing. The winner of this game Saturday is going to be in a really good spot. I would almost venture to say, barring an upset or Bethune-Cookman maybe stealing on the team that wins. The team that wins this game is probably going to win the regular season. So there's a lot on the line in this game. Grambling, I love them. I think they have the size. Dozier is a guy that can score the ball. Moden can score the ball. Jordan Smith is another guy. Aku inside. They have it all. They can play defense. They've lost 3 games at home. And that's kind of scary to me when you're in a conference race like this. But I still trust the team. I think the team, because they defend well and they have the size and they can play physical, I think that they can do whatever it needs to be done to win. And, they have good guard play that can shoot the ball. So they can do almost anything. They're not a high-tempo team, so that kind of changes some things. But if they can play their style, I think they have a good chance. This site doesn't like Grambling. I would say they don't like them at all. They're projected to be a 2 seed. but they have a 56% chance of making the second round. That's basically on par with some of the teams who may not make it that far. They have a 26% chance of making the championship and an 11% chance of winning it all. Like I said, maybe I'm higher on Grambling than some people are, but I love this team. I think I don't worry about where they are in the standings or anything like that. I think that they play a good style of ball that I love, and I think that they can be they're gonna be at the top in the end. Side note, in case y'all don't know, I'm not a Grambling fan, but I can give respect where it's at, and I think Grambling basketball for the last couple of years has been on an uptick. I mean, if you remember what Grambling basketball was a few years ago and where they're at now, it's night and day. So I enjoy seeing them play the way that they play. They make you play their style of ball. They're not going to really get sucked into too many things too often, but they're projected to finish 13-5, basically a game out of first in terms of the projections. But I like this team, and I think this team is going to win it all. And that's where we stand right now. So, like I said, we're going to do this after every day for the rest of the season. So we'll have another breakdown coming on Sunday, then one on Tuesday, then one on next Sunday, then one on next Tuesday, and then I think the games are like Thursday and Saturday at the end of the season, so probably Friday and Sunday. And then we'll kind of preview the tournament when we get there. So we have a lot of basketball ahead of us, but we also have football coming. Got the Legacy Bowl coming this weekend, so we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Of course, we have SWAC Smoke coming at you on Thursday, live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Probably going to also have a little bit of Legacy Bowl talk on Sunday. Might drop that video on Sunday or Monday. I don't know which one. But I'll be at the Legacy Bowl, so I definitely want to share my thoughts on what I see there. So with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC, C. Wells, signing out, and I will catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.